Good afternoon. So I'm Laurent Adoult from Agricole CIB. I'm very pleased to welcome you to this panel on official standard requirements and the Green Bond Principles guidelines. We'll mainly talk about EUGB, as you could have guessed. I'm very pleased to have a different set of representatives, issuers that have issued in the EUGB market, also investors, but also regulators, supervisors that will give their view. Maybe can I ask my panelists to introduce themselves and say a few words on their organization first? So Matteo.
Nice to see you. I'm Merlin Matteo, head of Green Sustainable Finance Team in Eurizon Capital, the asset management of Intesa. We are involved in green finance since 2018 when we launched the first green bond funds. Thanks.
Hi everybody, I'm Paolo Viganò, Head of Debt and Financial Planning at A2A. Let me quickly introduce A2A. We are a multi-utility company, one of the Italian largest industrial group. We run 4 different business units, such as generation trading, retail market, circular economy, and smart infrastructure. We presented our business plan last November, the update of our business plan. And our strategy is based basically on a couple of pillars. The first one, the energy transition, and we envisage 16 billion euros of investment and circular economy for the rest of the CapEx plan. So we are pretty involved in sustainable finance because we see sustainable finance as a fundamental lever for deploying our strategy.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tomomitsu Maruta. I am French and Japanese. I've been working for 10 years at the European Investment Bank, the bank of the European Union. And my focus has been on the business development of the instruments that the bank issues with dedicated use of proceeds. We have issued more than 145 billion euros of these instruments across 24 currencies. And we are also one of the largest, if not the largest, issuer of European green bonds with 7 billion euros. This development has been possible thanks to the gradual alignment of our instruments with the European Green Bond Standard and the EU taxonomy. We are also active in policy development. I am an alternate member of the Executive Committee of the Green Bond Principles. And yesterday we were very happy to see the result of the task force that we coordinated with Laurent on official standards and the Green Bond Principles. And also we are active in the EU platform on sustainable finance that advises the Commission in order to enhance the legislation for market usability.
Hi everyone, Gianluca Vittorioso from CONSOB. I'm the head of Prospectus office and my team, my unit is responsible. One of the priorities is the scrutiny approval on prospectus presented by Italian issuer and external issuer, and that is the main focus of my unit. But on the other hand, we have also responsibility on the white paper notification under MiCA regulation, and last but not least, the supervision of STS securitization is also under our remit. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe, Tomo, starting with you, I'd like you to set a bit the scene. As you said, you were one of the coordinators of the task force. Maybe it's not clear for everybody that didn't have the time to read the paper, but what are the key differences between the UGB and the Green Bond Principles, and similarities as well?
Yes, so the first point is, of course, that the Green Bond Principles is a flexible set of guidelines that was designed for international markets, while the European Green Bond Standard is a regulation, a piece of EU law that has legal force and that has some standardized templates that enhance comparability. We have done, I think, Laurent, together with the 90 members of our task force, of which there was a majority from outside the EU, a lot of work that was enhanced thanks to the comments of the members of the Executive Committee of the Green Bond Principles. And before coming to the results, I would like to highlight that this has been not a job that was done overnight. We had received more than 400 comments. There have been many iterative versions. And so the result that was published yesterday is just the gist of it, and I hope that it will provide you with precious insights. So the key point is that there are 3 core results. The first one is proximity. Between the Green Bond Principles and the European Green Bond Standard, about 80% of the various items are similar. When I talk about items, I talk about the work we conducted in comparing the templates of the European Green Bond Standard, so those for the description of the core features of the bonds, for the allocation reporting, impact reporting, external review, with the templates from the Green Bond Principles as well as the guidance. And of course, there are some differences in nature, but overall, we can say that the logic is the same. Then there are differences, which is a minority of items. And for them, we have, first of all, differences that are nuances. Differences that add precision, add more color to topics that are addressed in both the Green Bond Principles and the European Green Bond Standard. And last but not least, there are also differences that are truly supplemental. Differences that add value, that can enhance the practice of issuers under each of the regime. One of them is management of proceeds. This is an area that the Green Bond Principles consider as a core component, but is not explicitly addressed by the European Green Bond Standard. And this is why it makes sense for issuers that are aligned with the European Green Bond Standard to also align with the Green Bond Principles. On the other side, with its legal nature, the European Green Bond Standard brings legal force and more standardization in terms of allocation reporting, impact reporting, and external review.
Thank you, Tomo. Now we're going to speak about the experience that you guys had from issuing the first EUGB. Maybe starting with you, Paolo. Indeed, last year you were the first to issue an EUGB. First question I'd like to ask is what drove your decision to come to the market, and also what challenges you face in preparing that transaction in comparison to your traditional ICMA green bonds?
Yes, no, as I said before, no, our CapEx plan calls for a lot of funding needs. No, we presented a plan in which we included about 10 billion euros of funding needs from 2026 to 2035. We more or less we record 1.7, 1.8 euro billion of capex every year, and these capex are aligned to EU taxonomy in a range between 50 to 60% per year. So first of all, we have capex for issuing this kind of label, no? Because we need at least 85% of capex that are aligned to EU taxonomy for issuing a UGB. A2A has become a frequent issuer in sustainable finance since 2021. As of today, we have outstanding about 5 billion euros in terms of ESG debt in the capital market, including our hybrid bond issued in 2024. We published the first Italian combined sustainable finance framework, combining both the use of proceeds and sustainability-linked format. So in this context, we can talk about why we decided to follow the regulation, and I can say that we see a couple of levels in terms of drivers. No, first of all, linked to the instrument and to the product, because as said before, no, the European Green Bond Regulation is a piece of law. No, so. Provide the standardization, provide the transparency and comparability across the market for EUGB issuers. Probably the regulation is more important for issuer rather than for investors, sorry, rather than issuers, because of the comparability, the standardization, the transparency. The second level, the second driver, let me say, was our holistic approach to the market, because we try to offer to the market the better instrument time by time, following the appetite of investors, no? Because we decided to introduce the sustainability-linked bond in 2021. We started with the green bond in 2019, and then we decided to include also this label, that is a use of proceeds, in our portfolio. And this is for the drivers. Now, in terms of challenges, no, you know, when you look at the market for the first time and you decide to be the first one for issuing a bond, you have to deal with the fact that you need to experience work, to experience decision, no, because you have to be compliant with the regulation, but not the regulation was 100% clear, no. In fact, no, the Commission followed up with the FAQ for a couple of times, no, in the last 6 months. We did a lot of work with different stakeholders, councils, banks, regulators as well, because of for different reasons, no? How to treat this label in the MTN program. So we decided after discussion with the CONSOB to include the label in our MTN program instead. You know, the funds decided to went to the market with a standalone prospectus a couple of days after our issuance. We decided to prepare a fact sheet, a specific fact sheet for the transaction, publishing the fact sheet the day of the issuance, no? And then not including by reference it in the MTN program, but with just some disclosure in the use of proceeds section. So we work a lot on different topics, and last but not least, we did a lot of exercise with investors, no, to present our bond, to present the regulation, to ask the investor, no, their thoughts, no, around this regulation.
Thank you, Tomo. As I said, you also issued 2 EUGB. Do you share some of the comments here around the challenges? In a nutshell, what are the key topics that were difficult to overcome on your side?
Thank you, Laurent. So, first of all, I would like to give a panorama of the type of instruments that we issue. So we have 3 use of proceeds bonds. We have climate honest bonds, sustainability that cover climate change mitigation. We have sustainability awareness bonds that cover environmental objectives beyond climate change and social objectives. And then we have the last, the climate awareness bonds that are aligned with the European Green Bond Standard. And so I think in order to talk about the challenges, one way is to see the differences that we have among our 3 types of instruments. And in terms of size, so can be also an indication of the challenges. Last year we issued about 28 billion of these 3 use of proceeds bonds, and 75% was in climate honest bond format, and then 13% in sustainability honest bond, and only 12% in EU-GBS, climate honest bond. So we issue these instruments in parallel. And the differences between those that carry the legal designation, European Green Bond Standard, and those that do not carry this designation is reducing. We are trying to reduce the gaps, and there are 2 types of approaches. There is one relating to taxonomy, which was highlighted, and also to non-taxonomy aspects. And this is also a point that we have highlighted in the report that was published yesterday. So with regard to non-taxonomy elements, as highlighted by the report, the differences are not huge. They are, how can I say, they can be closed by reorganizing elements that are already covered by the core components and the key recommendations of the Green Bond Principles. So this is why, for example, we have standardized all our reports for all our bonds in alignment with the European Green Bond Standard. Then the challenge remains, of course, in the taxonomy side. And for this, the UGBS instrument is, of course, fully aligned with the taxonomy. And the other instruments differ in the degree of alignment with the taxonomy. The taxonomy is taken as a block, is very difficult to tackle. But if you break this complexity in smaller, doable steps, it's different. The picture is different. So we have aligned on a best effort basis with substantial contribution. There was just before a keynote by Davide Iacovoni, highlighting also impressive results from the Italian Treasury. And for our climate honest bonds, we are aligned for substantial contribution for all the activities that are eligible under the taxonomy. For our sustainability honest bond, we used a sample activity that is also aligned with substantial contribution. And then the most challenging part, do not significant harm and minimum safeguards. We have used the logic of the taxonomy, which we have defined using Article 3 of the taxonomy regulation, and we had an audit confirming the alignment. So I think that the challenges are not impossible, and that what is very important is that we keep the idea is that all these instruments remain aligned with the Green Bond Principles.
Thank you, Tomo. Now turning to you, Matteo. You're the investors. As an investor, do you welcome this emergence of official standard like the UGB? Or on the other side, do you think it just leads to more fragmentation and it makes your life more difficult as an investor?
As an investor, for us, UGBS is a cherry on top, because the ICMA created the base framework with the GBS. After the Commission decided to create the UGBS that create a standardization. For us it's really important because it allowed every kind of issuer to approach the market. This approach is feasible because the taxonomy defined what kind of activity you can finance. The technical screening criteria, they do not significant harm at a minimum safeguard. This allowed also in particular for some kind of business like the hard to abate sectors where it's more difficult to approach a sustainable markets to arrive, to explain why and what they are doing. On the investor side, the most important point is transparency, accountability. The UGBS allowed to have both of them because standardized reporting, that for us is important because when an issue arrives on the market, say, I will do something, I will get your money and use this in this kind of user proceeds. The year later, you have the impact reporting. From what they promise, you have to check what is the reporting, that is the results. Standardizing the impact reporting allowed the investor to understand if and how the investor produced these results, and allowed the comparison between different issuers. For us, it's really important because not all the issuers are the same. It allowed also to compare inside the same sectors, because it's not easy to compare a cement with a steel plant with a utility. The use of taxonomy, use of the NACE code, and also introducing all the do not significant harm give a peace of mind to the investor, and this for us is important. Is also another point is important for the investor is EU taxonomy and the UGBS are restricted to Europe? No. Everybody can use around the world. So it's something that is open. You can issue from North America, South America, Asia, everywhere you can use this kind of instrument. That for us is important because it links all the sustainable world in the same way. Of course, like Paolo said, there is some hurdle to tackle, but are not impossible. When you decide to take the street of the sustainable finance and you decide to go on, you can do it. The question is, think about it, study, and after you can produce the results. If you approach it without thinking and planning, will be a difficult task. Because like the issuer have their hurdle, we have the same because we analyze the bond. So for us, a standardized bond or a framework that is standardized all around the world is much easier to compare, to understand. Also on the regulator side, it's different to have a bond that is not standard or more standard. This is really helpful for everybody. I don't see a fragmentation inside of the market, but I see the UGBS as an opportunity for everybody.
Thank you, Matteo. Now, Gianluca, you have supervised a number of EUGB. I think we'll touch upon this later, but Italy has been one of the most prolific regions in terms of issuance. As a regulators, when looking at the documentation of this EUGB, what lessons do you take from looking at this documentation? Any things that you liked or you didn't like as a regulator?
Let me say, first of all, that I can share all the thoughts that my colleagues already said about the different importance of the UGB. We are lucky since thanks to Paolo, Patricia, the A2A, and all this, to scrutinize the first prospectus that does inside the UGB framework, and it's possible to issuing the first UGB in Europe. When we look at prospectus, so for us it's the first step of activity. There is no quite difference between the information contained in prospectus on UGB and ICMA green bond. Since you can always not huge difference. What we have more is that we have to supervise all the documentation related to the EU green bond. What we understand is that the importance of our activity that could, you need to find the right trade-off from supervision and not to excessive create burden to the issuer about the checking. So what we do, we follow all the rules that as a national competent authority, among other under the ESMA umbrella, we say. So we act with a risk-based approach and focus on, especially on disclosure. About, there is an analogy, but there's a huge important difference between the two framework, the two kind of instrument. It is that the UGB are supervised by an authority, and also you act under a regulated framework. That's for me is for us the main goal is to avoid to create an excessive burden for the market operator.
And how do you ensure that the harmonizations of your supervisory work between the various European regulators?
It's an ongoing process. Let me say, the harmonization is, we consider three pillars. We have the EU regulated framework, no? All this, the UGB regulation as well as the prospectus regulation as under maximum harmonization. So you can apply it directly. There is no need to introduce in your national law. The second is the role of ESMA. ESMA is a key role in playing for the reaching the supervisory convergence among the national authority, and we are an active part in the ESMA activity, working on with ESMA, releasing all the staff guidelines and what we need to consider useful for the markets. The second is to apply at national level the rules in a way that does not harm, sorry, I use a term that is the market operators, checking with other national competent authorities, with ESMA, if we are in line with within the other NCAs. So if we have any doubt about the application of rule or some new kind of instrument, we check with other national competent authorities under the ESMA steering committee to guarantee level of harmonization and to avoid the burden on our operator. So let me say this, it's important, what I learned about this period of the new, it's important that the dialogue, to exchange the view, the point of view, and what already said before Paolo is that she spoke to us about their intention to how to do this, and this is important, the connection between all the operator, including the regulator and the supervisor. Thank you.
Thank you, and actually I'm going to stay with you for a second, sorry. When it comes to issuing an EUGB, it comes with certain legal liabilities that are not necessarily present in a non-EUGB issuance. Can you just give us a few words about what are those liabilities?
Sorry, what, I missed the last part.
What are the legal liabilities when you issue an EUGB?
It's, you had the prospectus in common, okay, that's fine. All the prospectus ability you already know. All the documentation that you needed to release for the UGB as under the liabilities made up upon the regulation, the UGB regulation. So you have a legal commitment on these documents. Also, what I would like to say that it's important to consider the consistency about this document, also with the other documentation that entities have to release, to approve, to prepare under the CSRD and the other sustainable framework, let me say this. Also, the relationship with the external reviewer is in some way for me another liability, since the ER is a supervised entities by ESMA, so there is a responsibility in some way that is sharing by both the issuer, the company, and the external reviewer. And so what the issuer has to consider that it could be, he is subject to the scrutiny of all the documentation by the authority, and it could be under the policy of sanction if something goes wrong. There is no, so that's important. That's the main difference for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Now moving to a question that some issuers might ask themselves, what are the pros and cons? Just starting with you, Matteo, as an investor, do you have any additional demands for EUGB? Do you have any specific strategies for EUGB? And it has been mentioned that EUGB is a regulated standard. So does this additional requirements justify potentially a difference in terms of pricing?
We have 3 dedicated funds that invest on the sustainable finance that are Article 9 SFDR. We analyze the bond that we put in portfolio and differentiate between ICMA-based, EUGBS-based. The reason is the kind of framework that I have, EUGBS is stricter, other things that we have said before and repeated by all for us. The point is there is a differentiation of cost, demand, supply between the 2 formats, the ICMA and UGBS. At the moment there is some difference, it's not massive. The difference is mainly on the kind of investor. On the UGBS, usually the demand on dedicated funds is a bit higher. The reason is legal regulation, stricter. You are safer from the point of view of investor, and the kind of information that you have ahead of the issuance is higher. We think that this will push a change over time of the kind of information disseminated also from the issuer on the ICMA side, because the ICMA GBS issued by the different corporates or country or SSA will look to the UGBS as the top standard, and sooner or later they will be closer as kind of information. This kind of dissemination information similar will close the spread between the two standards, not only as data, but also as a spread and demand. At the moment, we have the preference on the UGBS, of course, but we know that for the corporate there are some costs additional to the conventional ICMA one, and for the SME it's more difficult to issue because of the kind of the framework, the demands that is required. So we need to have a holistic approach, like Paolo said. They have a holistic approach on the sustainable finance, and we as investors need to have the same, because we have to ask to the issuer what they can do, what we would like, but we have to take it to the dimension of the issuer. It's difficult to ask a SME issue UGBS or to say nothing. At least try to do GB. If you can go to the UGBS, market will differentiate over time, but markets are made by people. The people are able to understand what is the differentiation between the two. And the pricing is also linked to that.
Thank you, guys. Valerie is telling me that we need to hurry up, so maybe I will ask one last question to each of you. Paolo, we talk about your experience as an EU-GB issuers. For you, do you think the results of these transactions justify the additional work, or what is your view in terms of the relative benefit versus additional work?
Okay, I don't want to talk about greenium because honestly I'm not a fan of the quantification of greenium, because there are too many factors that can affect the price during the execution. No? For instance, we priced 5 basis points inside our fair value in January, and in November maybe at fair value or with a very small premium in the range of 1 to 2 basis points. Probably not because the investor likes the UGB label more in January rather than in November, no, isn't it? No. But what I can say is that for sure the label helps the book building, because the label shows affordability, transparency, standardization, no? So in both of our exercise, we saw an increase in terms of demand by dark green funds and specific order by dark green funds. No, if we compare our last 2 transactions in UGB format with the previous ones. In terms of cost, honestly, we simply added the cost linked to the UGB to the cost linked to an ICMA bond, no? Because if we compare, no, the two products, the costs are basically the same. The work around it for a player like A2A are basically the same, because we are compliant to the CSRT. We already had a framework in which we were and we are committed to give to the market disclosure and stats in order to the EU taxonomy alignment to the cap of our capex allocated to the bonds. So for sure the benefit are higher than the cost and the effort for doing this kind of transaction.
Thank you. Maybe just a question on reporting. Turning to you, Matteo, those 2 issues have published their first EUGB reporting. Very quickly, do you find them useful? Do you like to have this type of reporting?
I will be brief. Yes, we like the reporting. We appreciate how they do it. We think they can be useful also for who is issuing with the ICMA because they can copy. They can take suggestions from it. They can put the same kind of information because for the investor is important the reporting, not just issue with a green one, but also reporting, explain what you are doing. Don't hide anything. If something is not for you clear when you publish the impact reporting, ask to the banks, ask to the consultant, or if you are not able to clear it, explain in the impact reporting. It's more important to be transparent than to hide something, because the people, if they get it, well, you get a stigma on it. Thanks.
Thank you. And maybe the last questions. Italy has seen, I think, one of the largest number of issues coming to the EUGB market with different type of sectors we have seen coming to that market. How do you explain the success? And it's a question for anyone who would like to take up the questions.
Maybe I give it a shot. So it's very difficult to explain. There are always special conditions. Maybe for A2A it made more sense. Maybe for each issuer it made sense. But it is true that when we go back to history, the first perpetual bond was issued by the Republic of Venice. The first Euro bond was issued by Autostrade. So this is, of course, a land that likes innovation, that I think enjoys competition. And this may explain this preeminence and the pioneering spirit of some Italian issuers.
You want to add, or?
Also, in Italy, we have the kind of business that is really helpful. We are not huge corporates like other parts of the world, but our corporates are really keen on to be innovative. Innovative in research, innovative in sustainable finance. This, I think, is a framework that helps us to move on, not just first with the UGBS and after to think about what will be forward-looking, to have a holistic approach and to tackle what is the need of the markets.
Yeah, research and innovation for sure. Probably also the fact that in Italy we need capex in specific sectors, no, such as renewable energies, such as electricity network, circular economy, and all these sectors are eligible for this kind of paper, no, for this label. So probably it's also a sort of meeting between demand and offer. I don't know, industrial demand and capital market offer.
Many thanks. Please join me in thanking all my panelists. I think it's time for coffee break.